Well, I think it comes down to how much we trust our media. I mean, for me as a boomer, I pretty much take anything that Fox News says as gospel. And while I don't trust MSNBC or CNN, when Sean Hannity told me that the Soviet Union was backing Bashar al Assad and giving him chemical weapons by which to bomb his own people, even though it made no logical sense whatsoever, I knew that President Donald Trump was doing the right thing by bombing Syria. But now I'm concerned. Has Trump been taken over by these evil white nationalists who actually dare to do the right thing for the majority of the country of the United States? I'm not entirely sure. But one thing is for sure. When Bibi Netanyahu was disappointed, I am disappointed. We boomers are disgusted whenever Bibi Netanyahu is disappointed with our leaders. Netanyahu's disappointment, Netanyahu's despair toward Donald Trump. And also, let's not forget, you and I are big fans of great conservatives like Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro. And these guys are all people that are expressing deep, deep despair about Donald Trump's more recent foreign policy decisions. Anything that saves American lives at the expense of Israeli life is unacceptable. Does he let his daughter marry an Ethiopian conservative wearing a MAGA hat, or does he let her marry a Scandinavian socialist? Do you want to take that first, or should I?
Those bloody socialists, they're the worst thing that has ever happened to Western civilization. No matter how much they care for their people, no matter a strong sense of civic duty they have, or a good understanding of the excesses of finance capitalism, a white socialist from anywhere is infinitely worse than a Negroid capitalist from the sub-Saharan regions or any country with an IQ around 65. Certainly, I would marry my daughter off to a tribe of conservative, what did he say, Kenyans, Somalis? I don't know what he said. Ethiopians. Sure, I would donate all of my progeny to the small nation of Ethiopia, so long as they were all good conservatives who read the Bible, loved Thomas Jefferson, and listened to Glenn Beck.
Understand the best way for we boomers to prove that we are not racist is to allow our daughters to be impregnated by various men of other races. I mean, what better way is there to prove that you are not a white supremacist than to literally sacrifice your entire people to foreigners?
If it takes wiping out the white race to prove that we are not racists, then I would sacrifice your daughter. I would sacrifice my daughter. I would sacrifice our daughter's daughters. I would personally drive a stake through the heart of her white husband if it meant that she would be available for an African migrant.
Now, Gerald, I want to politically, of course, without question. Now, I want to say this real quick, Gerald. What are your thoughts on the looming government shutdown? Now, I have a real problem. We boomer conservatives, we have real problems with illegal immigration. I firmly believe that anyone who comes into this country and just fills out the correct paperwork is the same as me and you, as we clearly understand. Should Donald Trump shut down the government in order to produce the wall on the southern border, or is that unacceptable to you and your boomer conservative values?
Well, I would say that because we are white, and just like the Germans were white, and the Germans did horrible, unspeakable things to the Jewish people during the Second World War, I would say that any dark-skinned person who legally entered into the country and secured the proper paperwork is better than you or I by virtue of not being related to those horrible, horrible Germans and their evil Jew torturing ways. So, if we can solve the original sin of white guilt, then I would happily shut down the government to avoid building a wall. Josh Neal was showing me his Twitter account earlier today, and he took me to the profile of this lovely young Semitic journalist, Julia Yaffe, who've sent several electronic letters complaining about being wished a Merry Christmas because of her Jewish heritage. Now, I believe that protecting the feelings of ethnic and religious minorities is of the utmost importance. So if we as Americans need to reject our own culture and traditions so that minorities can feel more safe in our country and less prejudiced against, then by all means, happy holidays. The winter season, any a non-sectarian, non-denominational rhetorical tool that diminishes the status of white Americans while elevating those of the greatest Americans. Of course, you know who I'm referring to, the Jewish Americans.
Well, we have some great questions coming in the chat here, Gerald, that I think that we can definitely get to. The first thing, and I think that we can both address this separately, because I think the number will be a little bit different. Rustic Federalist wants to know, how many nose piercings does your granddaughter have? Well, my granddaughter has 3 separate nose piercings, and I'm not entirely sure how many other piercings she has, but I am extremely proud of how many foreign men my granddaughter has bedded. She has distinctly stayed away from whites. She is mostly geared towards Hispanics and blacks. I could not be more proud to offer my granddaughter on the altar of multiculturalism and Americanism. Gerald, how many nose piercings does your granddaughter have?
She has so many piercings that you cannot even see her nose anymore. It's just one big shiny metal mask in the middle of her face. I have to imagine she has serious respiratory issues because there's just more metal than there is flesh. Now, every time that my metal-faced granddaughter comes home with a Negro or a Chicano, I feel bad admitting this because I'm such a colorblind conservative that it hurts me to say this. My first instinct is one of utter repulsion. But then I quickly take my daily recommended dose of pharmaceuticals, drift off into a narcoleptic delusion, and I suddenly no longer care what my daughter is doing so long as she is happy. You will probably be killed by some illegal immigrant who was thrown out of the country and let in 7 different times before we do. And as much as it breaks my heart, if you are an evil white nationalist who would protest such a thing, then perhaps it is for the better good of America, it is for the better good of Israel, and it is for the better good of Central and Southern American natural conservatives who clearly don't have any respect for the culture or tradition of America, but nonetheless are completely entitled to our way of life.
Me. Robot Bjorn asks, hey, boomers, will I receive Social Security benefits in my golden years? Well, the simple answer, Robot Bjorn, is no. We boomers will gut your entire country in order to maintain our multiple properties in the Northeast, in the Boca Raton area, and wherever else we may be engaged in buying up retirement properties, until, of course, we are ultimately left to die by our Haitian caretakers. You millennials and Gen Zs, you are simply paying in to our retirement benefits while we live high on the hog until we die. So no, you will receive no Social Security benefits. We, of course, are the beneficiaries of all your hard work. And I would have to say, you will never even be able to buy a house. We boomers will live high on the hog. We lived high on the hog from LSD in Woodstock to cocaine in the 80s, all the way through the 1990s.
Mr. Bjorn, which frankly sounds like a Nazi name. I'm not sure, but that's what it sounds like to me. Shame on you for trying to benefit from things that you yourself did not earn. This is the major problem with millennials. Social Security isn't for you. It's for the boomers. We earned it by simply being born in a time when there were literally no other functioning economies on the planet. So to think that you're entitled, these entitled millennials, so entitled to our entitlements, is absolutely ridiculous. What you need to do is pick yourselves up by your bootstraps. You need to stop crying like a bunch of little snowflakes. You need to go to college. You need to take out a 6-figure loan that you will never possibly be able to pay back, and then get a minimum wage job, if you're lucky, at a local Starbucks, where you will be fired for being white and then stomped out in the parking lot by a bunch of hoodlums